Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I am starting with the third week of September and what we can expect day by day based on where the moon is. Because what I'm doing is I'm looking at the moon as it transits around the chart and where the other planets are relative to the moon. So this is all about the moon. And remember, I'm looking at the time in Central Daylight Time, Dallas, Texas. So adjust your clocks to wherever you are around the world. And I'd love to know where you are, so put in the comments down below where you're watching. And remember, if you want all of this for yourself personally, in other words, where all the planets are relative to your personal birth chart, you're going to want the Galactic Planner. Go to galacticplanner.com and sign up. We have just began so many new features, even the eclipses and how they're going to affect you this month of September. Because remember, we've got the solar and lunar eclipse going on this month. So let me dig in here with the third week of September. I'm starting with Monday, September 15th. And on this day, we have the moon in Gemini. And in Gemini, it's now approaching Jupiter, which sits in Gemini as well. It's not exactly conjunct Jupiter yet, but the moon sits in the nakshatra called Ardra. Ardra is a difficult nakshatra. So the good news is it's influenced by Jupiter, but the bad news, it's still in a difficult nakshatra. So this isn't an easy day at all, the 15th. And I'll say something else. September 13th, remember, Mars entered Libra. So we're looking at a whole different position of Mars now relative to all the planets as well. So on the 15th, we have the Venus K2 Sun together in Leo. So Venus just shifted signs as well. So we've got Venus and Mars shifted signs almost the same day, about a day or two before this. And with that, this is actually a good day for creative ventures because the Venus, Sun, and K2 in the third house from where the moon is situated. Now Mars is in the fifth house from the moon, and this will activate creative potential as well. So this day is a good day for creative ventures, broadening your mind, learning new things. Saturn does sit with Neptune in the 10th house from the moon. And this represents difficulties around the workplace or with your boss. Just lay low in the area of work, but focus your mind on your creative potential. But the moon being in Ardra, Ardra is a little dicey, let me put it that way. It can be kind of difficult. It's ruled by Rahu, the Ardra, and it just makes it a little bit more difficult. So hang in there and hold out till the next day, because the next day I'm looking at is September 16th. It's a Tuesday. And on this day, Jupiter and the moon come together in the nakshatra Purnavasu, one of my favorite nakshatras that deals with the return of the light. So this is a day where things feel good, feel right, and Jupiter conjunct the moon is for expansion, optimism, new ideas, and just renewal. Remember, the moon being in Purnavasu with Jupiter means positive renewal of things. So use this day wisely. And yes, we still have the Venus K2 Sun in the third house from the moon in Leo, which represents it's a day for creative expression. Mars being there in the fifth represents new ideas, especially for those of you who are creators of businesses and inventive ideas such as entrepreneurs. But that Saturn in the 10th with Neptune can represent you have more and heavier responsibilities around the workplace. And another thing is, I just noticed Mercury must have just changed signs like a day or two ago as well into Virgo. And Mercury in Virgo is great. It's its exaltation sign. And it's in the 4th house from where the moon and Jupiter sit. So it's a time to be working at home, getting things done around the home, and even home improvements. So now let's look at September 17th, which is a Wednesday, yes. So on the 17th, we have Mercury's moving pretty fast these days. It's moved up to oppose Saturn. And while Mercury opposes Saturn, this actually gives the ability to focus, to really focus on things, and that's good with writing. Besides, I absolutely love Mercury being exalted in Virgo, and yes, you can get a lot of creative projects done around the house at home. Now, the moon has shifted today into Cancer, and it is in the nakshatra called Pusha. Pusha is all about nurturing, caring for people, and it's a spiritual nakshatra, so it's a day for spiritual, deep thought and revelations in what you're doing. So Venus and K2, those interesting, they're only together in the sign of Leo, second from the moon. So it is a good day to plan financial affairs. Also, it could be a good day for buying things because Venus is ideas of beauty and purchasing things. Now, the sun has just shifted today as well to the sign of Virgo. So happy birthday to all the sidereal Virgos out there. And the sun being in Virgo, with Mercury, people are going to be more concerned about health and healing and their diet, nutrition, those kind of things are going to come up for today's issues and what you talk about. Now, Jupiter is in the 12th house from where the moon is, and this will represent, it's a time of spiritual work. And the moon being in Pusha is all about spirituality. But Jupiter in the 12th, pay attention to your dreams because that represents sleep and dreams. A lot of information comes to us through our dreams, and it's very important. Now, from the moon, Mars goes to the 4th house. And with that, then that means that, you know, maybe it's time to fix things around the house, things that are broken, a lot of work, things around moving and changing things around the house. And from this, Saturn is now, let's see, it's in the 9th house from the moon. So this is nice, but you know, if your father's still around, check in on him. That could be something that you should be more responsible with keeping up with. All right, so let me go to the next day, which I'm looking at Thursday. This is September 18th. And this day, the moon is still in Cancer all day, but it's moved into the nakshatra called Aslesha. So Aslesha is a tricky nakshatra, but it is a nakshatra that can deal with serious focusing, keeping the mind focused, and it's also a good nakshatra actually for business deals, particularly if you have to persuade people into things. This is a good nakshatra for that. But there is a little iffy situation going on today, and that is that Neptune and Mercury are exactly opposed. So sometimes this can make you a little confused and not see things clearly. But it's a great day for imagination and writing because Neptune gives you otherworldly experiences. Therefore, the imagination becomes more vivid and you can write very creatively during this time because Mercury and the Sun sit in the third house from the moon. Third house is all about creative talents, but particularly around the area of writing. So journaling and writing, you can really get some serious good work done today. And the other thing is, still on this day, we have the Jupiter in the 12th for sleep and dreams, and Mars fixing up things around the house. All right, so we are going to the next day, which the moon will shift into Leo, and we're talking about Friday, September 19th. September 19th, we have the moon in Leo, but in the nakshatra called Magha. And Magha deals with leadership. And the moon has just crossed over Venus, which makes it delightful. It's like a time for relationships, relating to people, connecting to loved ones. And the moon is coming up close to Ketu, which would mean otherworldly experiences like dreaming, feeling like you have one foot in reality and one foot out. It's not like you're totally connected, but the moon with Venus makes it very pleasant, a dreamy type feel for things, and creative as well. But I will say, the moon is in its Baslamic phase, where it is 12th from the sun. And generally, that's not a good time for starting new projects. So lay low and just be in the creative mode, planning, but not implementing or starting anything new at this time. You must wait till after the new moon, which is actually going to be a solar eclipse this month. So that's a pretty big deal. So also on this day, we've had Venus Venus is squaring Uranus, and it was actually more exact yesterday, the day before on the 18th. But today it's still kind of in effect, but really what I want to say, it's a day to watch relationships, to communicate better with your partners, and to do creative work as well, on your own, by yourself. Stay low this day with the dark moon. And it is coming closer to Ketu. Now, Saturn is actually in the 8th house from the moon, so it is a time of introspection, and especially with it being a dark moon, laying low, being introspective, and you'll find that after the new moon or the eclipse, things will come into be easier to implement and do. This is kind of a confusing day. With the dark moon, but it's with Venus, so use this time to work on relationships. That's what this is really good for. Mars, by the way, is in the 3rd house from the moon, so you might find that if you have brothers or sisters, you could be in disagreement about things, so if you can, kind of stay away. Otherwise, you're going to have some conflicts with siblings. That's what this really says. But you know, Jupiter being in the 11th house from the moon, it is a nice time to meet with friends. But communications are good. Just be aware it's kind of lay low and be a little bit more introspective. But it is a good time to communicate with others. So now I'm looking at September 20th, which is a Saturday, and we have the moon in the nakshatra Purva Falguni, and it's very close to Ketu. It will cross over Ketu at some point during this day. And so on the 20th too, there's some other important aspects I'm seeing, which are that Mars is at 4 degrees of Libra and Saturn's at 4 degrees of Pisces. So Mars and Saturn are in a quincunx. That is a difficult aspect. That means there can be some difficulties, like maybe obstacles, very serious obstacles. And you know how I feel about the dark moon. It's a time to really lay low. And this dark moon is with K2. So this is a time of deep, deep introspection, but please watch out for obstacles, accidents, because that's what a quincunx is known for, accidents and difficulties, and I get the feel of falling down kind of stuff. So be careful, literally and figuratively falling down. So the other aspect that's prominent today on the 20th is that Venus, yes, this is the day that Venus will square. This is where it's exact. I thought it was exact the day before, but it's Venus is squaring Uranus today. And that's not good for relationships. Venus is all about love, harmony, and getting along with people. And with it being with Uranus, it's like you're not getting along. Things are blocked. And there's obstacles with the quincunx of Mars. So Venus-Uranus relationships are double trouble. And that K2 moon. This is a good day for spiritual work, seriously. So leave it to that. But the moon being in the nakshatra Purva Falguni, that's a marriage nakshatra. And I actually did a video recently about these eclipses in September. Look out in the area of relationships. Relationships, you need to really be in tune with your contracts that you have with each other. Get close with your partner and be real. That's what I'm going to say about this day, because otherwise there can be some fights and mishaps and problems around this day right before the solar eclipse. So now I'm looking at Sunday, and this is September 21st. And this is the day of the solar eclipse. It is out of sign, though. What I mean by that is that where the sun and moon conjunction is where the eclipse is. It sits at 4 degrees of Virgo. But K2, which Rahu and K2 come together with the sun and the moon to create eclipses, is close, but it's in a different sign. So K2 is in Leo, but still, once again, I gotta say this deals so much with relationships, because remember, the moon is still in one of the marriage nakshatras. The day before it was in Purva Falguni, which is a marriage nakshatra and deals with relationships, but today it's a new Uttara Falguni, and they both deal with marriage. So this eclipse deals with making sure your relationships are good, that you're communicating clearly, you're talking about the things that need to be discussed. And another thing, at the time of this eclipse, Mars sits in the 2nd house, which that can kind of make things difficult, where when you speak, be very careful what you say. Choose your words wisely, because usually when Mars is in the 2nd house from the moon, we blurt out things without speaking, and it can be hurtful to people. So watch your speech. And remember, this is an eclipse, so things come out of nowhere that we didn't know about. Things become very intense around the solar eclipses. You'll hear sirens, you'll hear bad things all around happening to people. Just lay low. Know that this is a time of spiritual retreat. And then once the moon starts to increase in light, things will improve. But I will say this is the time of eclipses this whole month, so lay low. Okay, so one more thing. Jupiter at the time of this solar eclipse is in the 10th house. So that means that things are going to progressively be getting better in business and work and with your career, with things of that nature. Here's another serious event that I need to tell you, is that this solar eclipse is exactly opposed Saturn. And that basically means it's a time of heavy retribution, like people are going to have to pay for a lot of karmic deeds because of this. And there's also this air of heavy responsibility that we have to be aware of, being responsible for things, taking care of things, and being very Saturnian, which means responsible, disciplined, focused, and pay attention to structure, getting things right. This is what this is all about. Sun, Moon opposed Saturn, heaviness. And of course, this deals with relationships as well, getting relationships right, being honest, being fair, being forthcoming with information, and sharing your love. So this covers the 3rd week of September. Boy, is it intense with these eclipses going on. And just remember that the last week is going to be the grand finale. So hang in there and get ready for me to give you my analysis day by day for the last week of September. So with that, I'll close. Remember, if you want to know more about me, you can always go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. Thank you.